Okay, in 2 days we're going to commemorate the Holocaust in Israel. The international remembrance was a few months ago, and today we're going to talk about Holocaust denial. Recently, social media platforms have begun to recognize Holocaust denial as a form of anti-Semitic hate speech. Facebook started with that, and then other social media platforms have joined, which is, of course, a great achievement for all of us. And thereby, today, they're allowing us to take action against online Holocaust denial. However, this is just the beginning. We still see lots of Holocaust denial online on different various platforms, especially the ones that it's quite difficult to remove, like Telegram, TikTok, and other platforms. And we're going to ask the simple question, why is that important to remember the Holocaust, and why are people trying to deny that it took place? So today's webinar, with collaboration of WUJES, World Union of Jewish Students, and the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs, will be focused on this topic, Holocaust denial, and what we can do to stop that online and also outside from the online sphere. I'm honored to introduce Ruth Cohen-Dar, who is the head of Department for Combating Anti-Semitism in the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs. Ruth has agreed to share their experience and the office duties and plans to fight Holocaust denial. Thank you very much for being with us here today. It's really a pleasure. And this is unique, our first webinar with the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs. So the stage is yours.
Thank you, Tomer. Thank you, Naomi and Jonathan from WUJES for this cooperation. And of course, thank you to my colleagues at the Department for Jewish Communities, Hamutal Rogel and Gali Wolkowitz. Without Gali, we wouldn't have had this. She's worked very hard for this. So thank you, Gali. My mission or my mandate in the ministry is the topics of fighting anti-Semitism and Holocaust commemoration. It seems like two different things, but it's not. It's totally one thing when you look at the big picture. We do mainly coordination of activities between Israel and other countries in the world. We take part in the International Alliance, Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. I am half of the delegation head. The other half is a representative of Yad Vashem. And the delegation is made of mainly experts and researchers in the area of Holocaust history and anti-Semitism. I will show a short presentation that I prepared just to help us get into the issue. We will talk about Holocaust denial and Holocaust distortion today, not only because it's very close to Holocaust Commemoration Day in Israel in 2 days, but also because it is part of the combat against anti-Semitism. You cannot separate these topics from one another. So let me begin with sharing my screen. Just a second. Okay. Can you see, guys? Is it okay?
Yes.
But I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, let's see where I am. Just a second.
No problem. This Zoom
okay.
is.
Yeah, I'm just.
This is.
I'm really ready. I'm really ready to go back to the physical world.
Yes.
So is it clear now? Can you see, guys?
Yes.
So as I said, Holocaust denial and distortion is anti-Semitism. And just, I think a month ago, the IRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, has published a handbook how to identify and how to combat these two topics. Holocaust denial is plain and very easy to identify. Distortion is a bit more tricky, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Since we are close to Holocaust Remembrance Day and we're talking about memory, I would like to start with the words of Elie Wiesel about memory. I will read the full citation. Memory has its own language, its own texture, its own secret melody, its own archaeology, its own limitations. It too can be wounded, stolen, and shamed, but it is up to us to rescue it and save it from becoming cheap, banal, and sterile. To remember means to lend an ethical dimension to all endeavors and aspirations. And I couldn't put this whole topic in a better sum up of what we are dealing with when we are talking about Holocaust denial and distortion. So when we're looking at Holocaust denial and distortion, the IRA, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, has published in 2013 a definition of what is Holocaust distortion. Holocaust distortion erodes our understanding of history and nourishes conspiracy theories, dangerous forms of nationalism, Holocaust denial, and anti-Semitism. Holocaust denial seeks to erase the history of the Holocaust in order to legitimize Nazism and anti-Semitism, while Holocaust distortion is more difficult to understand and to identify. Holocaust distortion acknowledges aspects of the Holocaust as factual. It nevertheless excuses, minimizes, or misrepresents the Holocaust in a variety of ways and through various media. The present definition is an expression of awareness that the Holocaust denial and distortion have to be challenged, both nationally and internationally, both in the physical world and in today's days when we are all living in the virtual world, also and mainly on the online world. Holocaust denial is outright anti-Semitic. There is no question about it, and part of the IRA definition of anti-Semitism, it pinpoints Holocaust denial also. So it's very easy to identify, while as some forms of Holocaust distortion are clearly anti-Semitic, while claiming that not 6 million Jews were murdered, but just only 2 million, or Jews are exaggerating the numbers of the Holocaust. This is a type of distortion that is sometimes hard for people to understand and to detect. But it's not overtly anti-Semitic. It sometimes just encourages, takes you in the direction, shows you where the wind is blowing, and this is very important to pinpoint and understand it. It may include publicly denying or calling into doubt the use of principal mechanisms of destruction. For instance, there were no gas chambers during the Holocaust, or mass shooting of Jews, or starvation and torture, or the intentionally of genocide of the Jewish people, meaning the Germans killed everyone. You can hear that nowadays in many countries on the eastern side of Europe, that they're saying that this and that number of our citizens were murdered. Out of them, there were this and that number of Jews. This is plain and direct and clear Holocaust distortion. It not always comes from anti-Semitic motives, but it really encourages anti-Semitism at the end of the day. When we're talking about glorification of patriotic figures, a good example is what happened just before Pesach in Ukraine. I forgot the name of the city, sorry, my Alzheimer is getting worse, but this, one of the biggest cities in Ukraine has called a big stadium after the name of General Shukhevich, who during the Holocaust was very efficient in murdering Jews, while he's looked at in Ukraine as a national hero who fought against the Soviets and communism. And nowadays, when they are trying to create their own narrative, to create a comfortable past to live with, such a figure can be a useful figure as a national hero to look at. So this is a good example. There was a real clash between our embassy in Kiev and some political figures in Ukraine when our embassy reacted and pointed out that this person was involved in murdering Jews and he's not such a big hero. It did not help us. The stadium is still called after his name, and some other cities have decided to call main streets after his name, just to make a point that he's a national hero. Another very common distortion is it was not us, it was the Germans. We didn't do that. The Germans did that. The Nazis, they built the concentration camps, they killed the Jews. We had nothing to do with it. And this really comes from the motive of trying to create yourself a comfortable past to live with, and to minimize the role of your people in the murder of Jews during the Holocaust. This is plain distortion. This comes from, this leads absolutely directly to anti-Semitism. And this is something we need to be aware of and be alert and look at. Distortion also refers to intentional efforts to excuse the impact of the Holocaust or its principal elements, including collaborators and allies of Nazi Germany, as I said, gross minimization of numbers of victims, number of Jews who were murdered, and comparing it to the number of the citizens of a specific country we are talking about. And one of the most disgusting, in my opinion, and horrific is trying to blame the Jews for the Holocaust. The Jews were responsible for their own murder. This is not something to take light in. It's there, it's out there, and there are quite many people who believe in that the Jews not only were responsible, but they put the blame on the Jews, as they called the Jews collaborators of the Germans, because I'm sure you all know that in the ghettos there was Jewish police, or the couples who were responsible for arraigning the Jews when a shipment to the concentration camps was made. So this is looked at as collaborators, or those who were forced to work in the gas chambers in the death camps. So statements that cast also positive aspects of the Holocaust, like this is a good solution of the Jewish problem for those who are looking for a solution of the Jewish problem. Those statements are not Holocaust denial, but are closely connected to it as a radical form of anti-Semitism. They may suggest that the Holocaust did not go far enough and did not finish the job. This is something we hear a lot in the Arab-speaking world, especially online, that it's a pity that the Germans did not finish their work during the Holocaust. Holocaust distortion is on the rise these days. I put here a survey that I found done by the Claims Conference in the US on millennials and Generation Z in all 50 states. They asked those young people what they know about the Holocaust, and the numbers are speaking for themselves. Almost 50% of those who were surveyed in this survey did not know anything about the Holocaust. And as you can see, 49% came across denial and distortion online, but did not know to recognize it because of the lack of knowledge. And we'll talk about it in a minute. Also symbols, Nazi symbols. I would like to point out to the picture I posted here. When I looked at it at first, I didn't know what they want, but if you look at the symbol on the collar of this Nazi soldier uniform, you can see the studio here is built like this symbol. I posted a photo of Nazi symbols at the end of this presentation. You'll see it more clear. But this is something that for a person who is not aware, it took me time to understand what they want when they criticize this picture, because I didn't see the shape of the studio clearly. But if you are a well-aware, well-educated person and you look at it, you see it very clearly right away. And this Conservative Political Action Conference received a lot of criticism for this symbol. And this is something to look at, especially when you are online and there is a lot of media online, photos, videos, and sometimes you really miss it. You really miss it. For me, it was awful to see on the 6th of January those men with Camp Auschwitz on their shirts, or those who demonstrated against vaccines in Germany, walking in camp attire with the yellow star on their chest, just to protest against vaccines, and comparing the Holocaust with the vaccination campaign. This is distortion at its very clear way. We could see during COVID-19 crisis a very strong effect of the crisis on conspiracy theories and the spread of theories about the Jews. The term Holocaust was used. Holocaust, using Holocaust and cough, was used as a covert name for calling to kill the Jews, to spread the disease among the Jews in order for them to die. Using the term poisoning the wells, which is coming from the protocols of the Elders of Zion, was used a lot in the right-wing media and conspiracy theorists like the QAnon, or around the Black Lives Matter. Also the lies that were spread that the American police is training with the Israeli police, and the Israeli police is teaching the Americans how to kill children in the demonstrations of Black Lives Matter. One of the most disturbing things that I came across, it was right before Pesach, two articles were published, one in the New York Times that looked at the pardons that the Trump administration has given right before President Trump left office, and blaming Jews conspiring to promote those pardons right out front, without trying to, cover it or have a subtle language, but right out front, the Jews had a hand in that and were manipulating the pardons of President Trump. And the second one was published in the New York Post. There was a wave, there is a wave of Corona there, you probably know better than me. And they were trying to pinpoint the neighborhoods that are spreading the disease. And very surprisingly, it was only Haredi majority populated neighborhoods that were pointed out in that article. Political misuse of the Holocaust is something that is happening a lot these days. You could see it very well in the campaign against George Soros in Hungary, using his Jewishness as something that is a problem, and the campaign was targeting George Soros specifically, covering it up as a campaign against the immigrants, the refugees who were coming into Hungary in those days. What we saw from those surveys and others that I looked at is The biggest problem with regard of Holocaust denial and distortion is the lack of knowledge and awareness. It's a big problem because those deniers and those who are distorting the Holocaust on purpose are doing it with a specific motive and a specific goal. But for us, you know, the common people who go online, who read materials, not to be knowledgeable enough and not to understand the bits and bytes, the small details, the small things that can be, you know, twisted and distorted, is a very big problem, especially online. And this survey that we talked about, the survey that was done in the US, found that 63% of the young generation in the US don't know that 6 million Jews were murdered. 48% of them could not even name one camp out of 40,000 camps. I think Auschwitz is it's really bad to say, but it's a brand name. It's the Holocaust symbol. And to think that almost half of those who were surveyed did not know one camp and did not know anything about the Holocaust is really a worrying sign, not only for us as Jews. It's not only a Jewish problem. I want to re-emphasize and emphasize again and again, this is not a Jewish problem. I'm Jewish, you guys are, but it's not our problem only. It's the human society's problem, because distorting the Holocaust and denying the Holocaust hurts the ability to learn from history. And remembering is not only remembering and paying respect to those who perished and paying respect to those who survived and sorry, and praising their bravery and their ability to overcome this trauma and, you know, build new lives, build new families. But it's a problem to human society that cannot learn from history in order to prevent other genocides or other situations where other minorities are hurt. And for us, it means our future is jeopardized, not only for Jews, but for human society in general. You can see the numbers, they are really worrying. 20% of the New Yorkers feel that the Jews caused the Holocaust. This is absolutely anti-Semitism, not only a distortion of the Holocaust. The optimistic point was that over 60% of those who were surveyed thought it's important to teach, to have the Holocaust as a compulsory subject in the schools, in the curricula in schools. And over 80% thought that it's really important to learn the history of the Holocaust in order to learn the lessons that you can learn from the Holocaust. So we have an optimistic point in this very grim picture that this survey has given us. And not a much different picture is coming out from a European survey that was done in 2018. I don't believe that if we check it today, we'll find much different data. They say 1/3 of the respondents, 1 in 3 people say they know little or nothing of the Holocaust in Europe. 50% in France, 56% in France. That's more than half of the young people did not know about what happened to the Jews in France. And most of them, 98%, didn't know about a Drancy camp right outside of Paris, where it was the place where a transit camp where Jews were sent to the death camps from. And the most worrying, I think, for us and for the Europeans, and the Europeans do acknowledge it's a problem, is the number in Germany of those who think that it's time to put the Nazi past behind. And this number is climbing according to the survey and according to European surveys also. This was done by CNN, but also the European Commission is surveying the population once in a year, and their data is not much different in that. So online distortion, let's talk about challenges of online distortion. We have keywords that attract clicks, for instance, Auschwitz, or Holocaust, or 6 million. But those keywords not always lead the clicker or the person who clicked them to positive information, but rather most of the time the algorithm will take this person to I don't know, negative, I don't want to say bad, negative content or poisonous content that is spread by either extremists from the right or extremists from the left in the goal of distorting and denying Holocaust and promoting anti-Semitism. So this is a big problem. Another issue is the issue of the moderators on the various platforms. They need to be more educated. They need to be more aware, more alert to the small nuances of the terms, of the keywords that people are searching, and to be able to identify and pinpoint those problematic keywords and have them either removed or direct the person who is searching to positive information in order to prevent distortion and denial. So it's mainly a problem of ignorance and lack of knowledge of those people. This is something we have a lot to do in, and we can do more. Us as the ministry and you guys who are there out there surfing the internet and working to tackle those materials, that poisonous content. Misuse of credible content. You know, they're taking credible content from Yad Vashem's website or from museums' websites and twisting it and manipulating it and distorting it in a way that is very hard to detect. And this is something we have to be aware and understand, again, the nuances and the facts. The keyword for all I want to say is fact-based work. We need to get ourselves knowledgeable in the facts, know the problems, know the manipulations and the possibilities for manipulations in order to be able to detect and to pull out those poisonous materials that are circling in the online. Current events and the equation to the Holocaust, I already talked about those demonstrations against vaccines and the use of the Holocaust to compare between the vaccine campaign and the Holocaust. This is horrible. Also, during the Black Lives Matter, as I said, the movement, there was a lot of blaming of Israel and the Jews as white supremacist. You know, you guys know it not less good than me that Jews are caught in the middle between left-wing anti-Semites who call them Zionists and supporters of the apartheid state, and right-wing anti-Semites who look at Jews as non-whites. So we are caught in the middle here. What can we do? So fact-based and knowledge and education. Educating, first of all, ourselves in the facts and in the phenomena, understanding the phenomena and creating basic knowledge for ourselves, first of all, and for people around us who are trying to work against this, this phenomena. Education is also important part in educating younger people in the history of the Holocaust, in the facts of the Holocaust. And I'm sorry, my dog is announcing something outside. Education is an important basic tool for us as people who are fighting this phenomena, who are working to face this challenge, but also for the common person, to promote positive content that will contradict the poisonous content and will help us confront this phenomena, especially online. Monitoring the phenomena, meaning what you guys are doing, you guys in FOA, is going into those platforms, finding that materials, flagging it for the social media platforms or for the other online platforms to look at it and either remove it or block it and have it prevent the movement of these materials in the digital sphere. Training officials, training law enforcement people, training of educators who are in schools to better understand the phenomena, to have a fact-based training of knowing better the history of the Holocaust, because they are responsible for the education of the younger generation. Cooperation, especially with regards to the online phenomena. We need not only a national cooperation, but an international cooperation. The online sphere has no borders, and we need to share information. We need to have our hands joined between governments, between civil society organizations, and of course, we need the online media and platforms on board with us together as a triangle that will help us confront this problem. On the online sphere, if we reach out to opinion leaders and mentors, people who attract attention, people who have millions of followers, people who have thousands of followers, and have them on board and have them promote positive, I call it positive content, as to contradict the poisonous content. That's a good tool that we are trying to do. It's not easy to be done. And I think not less important, even though it's on the level of governments, but also on your level, is safeguarding historical records and research. On your level, you guys are students mainly, you are in university. We need to make sure that you have a free and tolerant environment that will have you, enable you a good access to documentation, a good access to research materials, and also a space, a safe space for that material to emerge and have the history checked on a fact-based research regarding historical records. I want to point out the archives that are spread all over, mainly Europe, but also in other parts of the world, that have records of the history of the Holocaust. And we need to make sure that those archives are well maintained, but also accessible to everyone who wants to do a research on those materials and wants to make sure that we have the facts correct and documented. This is just, I collected from the ADL, all those symbols. That's this one, the Otala rune is the symbol that that studio used as a decoration for the studio. To be honest, I didn't know it until I checked it, and I learned something after coming across this incident. I think it was the end of January. So in some extreme right websites or groups, these numbers are very common. 1488, 88 is Heil Hitler, and 14 is the 14 words, the slogan of the neo-Nazis. I'll move, you can see it here. We must secure the existence of our people and the future for white children. Really nice people. Also, sometimes people use the birthday of Hitler as a code name for his name online. It's the 20th of April for those of you who don't know it. Thank you very much for your time. I'll be happy to answer any question you have. And we can talk about the IRA definition, the discussion about the IRA definition, or anything you would like. I'm here for you. Let me just stop sharing. Okay, I'm with you guys.
Thank you very much. This was very interesting, Ruth. Every time we talk about it again, we understand, at least as we just understood, that the problem and the Holocaust denial phenomenon is still quite severe, and even 80 years ago or 75, we still have lots to fight online and not online. You talked a lot about the education field, which is very, very important to educate. I think that in Israel, we are used to talk about the Holocaust and to study about the Holocaust, and young children go to Yad Vashem, but it seems that outside Israel, this is not the case. So thank you very much. It was very, very interesting. Gali is also from the MFA, and I will be very happy if you introduce yourself, because this is another field in MFA that you should also know. So Gali, it's better if you introduce your activities in fighting anti-Semitism, fighting Holocaust denial, and just helping the Jewish communities all over the world.
Yes, so hi everybody, good evening and good afternoon, depending on when you're connecting, where you're from. So my name is Gali Volkovich, and I work at the Jewish Communities Department at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Just in general, I wanted to introduce that we work with the Jewish communities and the world Jewry through our embassies around the world. And we're all the time in constant contact with all the leaders of the different Jewish communities to try and detect not only, of course, like specifically, Ruthie is in charge of anything that has to do with Holocaust and anti-Semitism, but we also collaborate with her, with the departments and with the embassies about specific cases. We represent that bridge between the Israeli government and the Jewish communities in the diaspora. And as such, like, it is of great importance for us to stay in touch and collaborate specifically with you, the ones that are coming from WUJES, from the World Union of Jewish Students, that you represent the young Jewish leaders all around the world, and you have boots on the ground. And therefore, we really bless this joint initiative, and we hope we can continue contributing mutually with both FOA and WUJES. And in general, if, as we've said before, but we may have like new students coming in today, we help out with specific cases. We help out to if there's like challenges that COVID brought to different communities on more of like a bureau like aspect or level. But still, you can contact as student leaders. You can contact your embassies if you need help through us. If you had a specific problem in your campus that you need assistance with. And also, I wanted to bring up, last thing, was that the IRA definition is being promoted and accepted not only in the national level at the governments, but also in universities. And in that moment, like if you want, Ruthie can tell you more about it and can tell you a specific example that just happened in Minnesota, actually. But I think it's very important. If you want to promote it, you can speak with student leaders or with the administration in your university in order to promote that definition. And thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much, Gali, and thank you for this collaboration with WUJES, which is very important. And Naomi from WUJES, please share also about your important activities, and as Gali said, many volunteers and many students, even the Israeli one that maybe one day will study in Europe or outside Europe. So it's important for them to know and understand there is an NGO, there is an organization that helps the Jewish students around the world.
Mm-hmm. There is a question there in the chat.
I think, yeah.
Someone is asking, what is the motive? You want to leave it to the end?
I think Naomi will introduce.
Okay.
And then we will open, because
okay, slicha. Right.
Okay.
No
Sorry.
problem. I think I will leave more room for the questions because that's an important part of the whole session. First of all, thank you very much, Ruti, and thank you for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and for FOA for this collaboration. The World Union of Jewish Students is the umbrella organization of over 50 Jewish student unions around the world. We are in 5 different continents, so we're everywhere from South Africa, Australia, South America, Europe, of course, and Southeast Asia as well. And one of the many things that we do is we support our local unions around the world. Unfortunately, also, especially when it comes to fighting and combating anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, and we provide tools and webinars and connections with different institutions around the world to help the students fight this on campuses. As you mentioned also, trying to get the IRA definition in universities. So we worked very closely with the student union in the UK that has had great success. So basically we're here, and if any one of you is from out of Israel, is looking for a student union, we're represented most everywhere, and we're happy to assist and support you in your leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And yes, now this is the time for our Q&A, and we send you in the chat. You're welcome to follow Wuj's Facebook. We're going to send also the MFA Facebook page, so you're welcome to follow and like, so you are updated with other events. There were many things written in the chat regarding anti-Semitism as a religious weapon, which in the past has been used to blame the Jewish of all kind of disgrace. Claudetta wrote that, and she talked also about the one of the Nazi symbols that you, Ruth, mentioned in the ADL website. And our question is for Maya about the motives behind Holocaust denial and distortions. And she's asking, is it more anti-Semitic or anti-Israeli today, nowadays, and are these visible differences, let's say, between Europe and the US? She's asking if there are any visible differences, and all the other participants, you're welcome to add your questions as well.
Okay, I just shared with you a video that was done by some association about anti-Semitism today. I think it's worthwhile of 11 minutes to look at it, just to, it helps to form the picture about anti-Semitism. I think it's a good video. Regarding Holocaust distortion and denial, when it's done intentionally, the motive is not anti-Israeli. The motive is, it's not necessarily anti-Israeli, it varies. Usually when it comes from the right, extreme right or right side of the map, it's mainly anti-Semitic, good old anti-Semitism, the old type of anti-Semitism. When it comes from the left, it's mainly directed at delegitimizing Israel, going under the legitimation of the existence of Israel. So it really depends on who the speaker is and what kind of, what kind of manipulation they are doing on the topic of Holocaust denial and distortion. It's not necessarily this or that. It could be either this or either that. We can see on Arab media many times, we can see Holocaust, plain Holocaust denial. If you go on Iranian official media, you can see Holocaust denial right out there. There is this yearly caricature competition, anti-Semitic competition that the Iranian government is running. So it depends on really who the speaker is and what they are aiming at. That would be my best answer for that. You need to, every case, look at it, analyze where it comes from, who the writer is, and where they're going to.
Thank you. Other questions, please feel free to write in the chat. And I have a question, Ruth, if you don't mind, about what you said about Germany, that today Germany, the German people, they're trying to leave the past behind. And is that also something that we consider sometimes as Holocaust denial? Because it seems on one hand that it's quite even natural to leave the past behind or to proceed into the future, but on the other hand, I agree with you that they should continue and talk and educate about the Holocaust. So what is like what can they do better in your opinion? Or what?
The leaving the past behind is, this term is not the coming from the will, you know, to a better future. Leaving the past behind is, there is a rising notion that the Jews are talking too much about the Holocaust, that the Jews are using the Holocaust, abusing the Holocaust. There is, especially from the left, there is this expression that the Jews abuse the Holocaust in order to get the state of Israel, and they are abusing the Holocaust remembrance in order to oppress the Palestinians. This is, you know, it's a kind of slippery slope that is there. Germany, as a state, as a policy, as a almost strategic partner of Israel in many ways, is really focused and is really working on this issue of teaching and owning their responsibility to the past. So this is not a matter of a government that is denying the responsibility, but there is on the street level, on the average person level, this notion that Jews are talking too much about the Holocaust. They don't want, and they're asking the question, until when we will be responsible for the Holocaust? To be honest, until the end of time. But it's very hard for a person, you know, even my age, I'm double your age, even my age, to think, why am I responsible for things who people I don't know, I didn't have any connection to, did when I wasn't even born. So this is something that it's a kind of a conflict for a person, and here education is very, very, very important. And I believe that in Germany they're doing, but there is always those who abuse the history in order to promote themselves and promote their ideas.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And Claudetta is right in the chat. There is also some programs between the young generation. This is also very important. Today, we see lots of exchange delegations between Israelis and German. This is also very important. But I also believe, like you said, that many young Germans don't want to hear more about the Holocaust, and they refuse to talk about it. When we monitor online Holocaust denial, we see many posts that say that the state of Israel was established thanks to the Holocaust or because of the Holocaust. And many people don't necessarily consider that a Holocaust denial or just another use of the Holocaust, because they said that the Holocaust helped Israel to establish, the Jewish nation to establish a state. And
it's not denial, it's a type of distortion. It's a very subtle distortion. You know, the Jews used the Holocaust to create themselves a state. It smells very bad when you don't know the history. So it's, and it helps promote the idea of delegitimizing Israel, promote BDS very well by this.
So this is the way the BDS can use the Holocaust. I mean, they say that it did not happen because it's, even for many people who are BDS or just anti-Israel, even for them, maybe it's hard to deny the Holocaust. So they will use that and say that it helped the state of Israel and the Holocaust maybe was helped us. And then that's why they can blame the Jewish, even Holocaust itself in many cases.
Good. Any more questions, guys? Well,
I don't see any more.
Can you guys write on the chat where you're from so I will know who I spoke with? I recognize some Israeli names, but oh, Albania, כל הכבוד, Claudetta. Who else?
They are shy
I
of,
think most are Israelis, right?
maybe, I'm not sure. We
Tina
do-
from Israel, Israeli in Vienna. יופי, Maya. Shalom לך.
we have Albania, we have Israelis, and
Come on, don't be shy. Where are you from, guys? Okay.
well, I think I recognize few of the names of our volunteers, and I think some of them are from Israel, some of them are students, and some of them
Okay.
also teenagers in Israel. We have
Yoffi.
from Israel, and so we have many Israelis here.
Yoffi.
Okay, so thank you very much, all of you participated, Ruth, Gali, and Nomi. Thank you for our audience, and we are very happy for this. And next month we're going to have another webinar discussing another type of hate speech and other topics. So you're welcome to join. We will send more information soon. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
תודה רבה.